Welcome everyone to another episode of Tips from My Garage. My name is Lisiate Tonga. I'm the father of two boys, husband to a beautiful wife, owner of online business Upgrade Version U.0, and author of ebook Q&A Between Two Addicts. And today I want to talk to you all about finding a new perspective. And I want to start it out with this quote, and the quote's not verbatim, so I'm paraphrasing here, but it says, you can't fix a problem with the same mindset you created the problem with. And us as human beings are habitual. We like routine, we like habits. Things are much easier for us once they get into a habit form or once they get into a routine. Things get easier. They get easier for us to do physically. They get easier for our brains to calculate. Everything much easier when we get into a routine. The problem can be that the routine that we have is not one that is blessing our lives. It's not progressing us to the next phases of the lives that we should be. It's actually hindering our abilities to move forward, and they're counterproductive. They move us in the opposite direction. But the problem with that is we just we have this belief in our head or in our brains that that's just the way life is for us. We don't know any other way to live, or we've never really seen any other way to live. So we just continue doing the same things day in and day out, believing that this is our reality when it is our reality, but we live it out as if we don't have any other choices, as if there isn't another way for us to live or to conduct ourselves, or another path for us in which we could find another way to live our lives. And that can also be because we are so comfortable with the way that we do things now that it's just too much work to change, or we're happy with this the the state that we're in, even if it isn't really the best. It is still something, and we are content with it, so we put up with it. When I used to travel back to the US frequently, I always found it interesting how, after a couple of years of living abroad and then going back to the US, I could go back to the same places that I used to hang out, the same bars and the same clubs. And it was fascinating to me that I could see the same person in the same bar stool that I saw 2 years back doing the exact same thing. And I could repeat that process every 2 years and still see the same people in the same places doing the exact same things. And I always felt, first of all, I felt blessed because when I came back home, I came home with 2 years of experience under my belt in a foreign country where I worked in a different environment that I was used to, having to build relationships with different cultures, different types of people from all walks of lives, and having all of these different types of experiences that I feel very blessed to have. And when I went home and I could see these people that I was telling you about that would be in the same bar stool in the same bar doing the same thing, I just felt bad for them. And the thing is that I don't believe they feel bad for themselves. I just believe that is just their life, and they're okay with that. And that's okay for people to feel that way. But what I feel is, in my opinion, I believe that everybody's life is worth living to the fullest. I don't want that just for me. I want everyone to be able to believe that they are here on this earth to make the most of the lives that they have, and that means living their life in the best way possible. So that's something that I want for everybody to have, to be able to believe that about themselves, so that they can break free from the routines and the habits that they have, and that paradigm that they have as well, that there isn't another way to live. And so I should be content with what I'm doing now, because I've this is my life, and I've resolved to this being my existence, and I'm okay with that. And forgive me for wanting the best for everybody, for wanting everybody to want to strive to live their life to the fullest. For those that do come to a realization that, hey, I there is a problem here, I just don't know how to fix it, and they continue in the same routine and the same lifestyle and the same habits, like their life is one continuous groundhog day, and they just don't know how to break free from that, it is because they are still in the same mindset that they have been always. They haven't been able to change the routine or the habits or the direction, and more importantly, they haven't been able to change the perspective, to be able to see things from another viewpoint, to perhaps give themselves an opportunity to entertain the thought that, hey, maybe things can be different from my life, if they just had an opportunity to see things from another perspective. And so I guess that's really what I want to talk to you about, is that the firstly, that you can't fix a problem if you are in the same mindset that you were in when the problem was created. You have to change your mindset in order for you to see something from another perspective, to see that, hey, okay, I can change that. But it's going to be very difficult for you to change the direction, change the person that you are, change the life that you're living, if you're still in the same mindset and you're still in the same routines that you've always been in. And so I want to talk a little bit about interrupting that loop and that process, to change the routine that you're currently in. And the thing is that there is this perhaps this preconceived misconception that people have, that there has to be some huge jump, like some complete overhaul, in order for you to be able to change your perspective. And to be honest, the opposite is true. You don't have to like completely like take yourself out of your environment to be able to change yourself, um, because that actually doesn't always work. I've taken myself out of environments, moved myself across different states and across different countries, and I still didn't change. And so overhauls don't always work, because the intention may not be there. And if the intention for you to change is not there, then it's not really going to matter. You think that you want to change, you're not quite sure, you think that this might work, that's not going to be good enough either. But what I'm saying is, if you could just change the perception that you have, to look at your life from a different perspective, you can do that by doing little simple things. And one really great way to get another perspective on things is just to be able to go out into nature. And going out into nature, for example, taking a hike, and if you're at the bottom of a hill and you're hiking up a hill, and that's going to be a little bit tough, and it's going to be good for you. The thing is that when you get to the top of the hill, or when you get to the top of the mountain, and you look down and you're looking over a bay or over a lake or over an ocean or whatever it is, that is another perspective. And it can be something as simple as doing things like taking a hike, or going for a swim in the ocean, or going for walks on the beach. And especially if those are things that you're not used to doing at all. Because I know that there are people that have routines that are so structured in their routines, in that they don't actually go outside of like maybe a 5 to 10K uh, radius from where they live. They just go to work, then they go to the bar, then they go to their friend's house, then they go to the club, then they go back to work, and they don't really change that. And so something as simple as doing something that is outside of the ordinary that you're not used to doing. It could be out in nature, it could be going to different places, it could be hanging out with different people. And sometimes hanging out with different people is all it takes, because hanging out with the same people all the time, even though they are like, birds of a feather, they get you. Like, you guys are peas, two peas in a pod, or you guys are like birds flocking together, like birds of a feather that flock together. That's always so good to have that camaraderie. But it is also good to be around other people that can influence you in different ways, that have another perspective on life. So you may have heard the saying about, you're the total sum of the five people that you hang out with. And that is true. Like, if you're hanging out with four drug addicts, you're going to be the fifth. If you're hanging out with four alcoholics, you're going to be the fifth. But if you change that up so that you're hanging out with people that have different perspectives on life, that could be just what it takes for you to be able to see things from another viewpoint, and to be able to see that, hey, yeah, actually, perhaps I could do things a little bit differently. So hanging out with different people is also another great way to just simply interrupt the patterns and the routines that you have, and to get another perspective. New activities, I would say, like, if all you're doing is going to work and going to the bar and then going to work and then going to the clubs and then going to your friend's house and that sort of thing, that is not gonna you it's going to be very hard for you to change that. They say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You're never going to get a different result by doing the same thing. You have to change that up. You got to do things different. So different activities could be something like a sport, picking up a sport, like something different where you can physically put your body under duress, so that your body starts getting used to the fact, or starts telling your brain that, hey, you're out of shape, you need to get back into shape, you need to eat better than what you're doing, you need to stop doing drugs, or you need to stop drinking so much, you need to stop, you need to get your life in order. You need little things like this to interrupt your patterns, to tell your brain, to send your brain different signals that, hey, I can't keep up with this workload that you're giving me right now. If you want me to continue to do that, you have to change the way that you're living. If you can continue to put yourself consistently interrupt the patterns that you have consistently, and get these different signals to your brain all the time, that's really all it takes for you to be able to eventually say, hey, I really have to commit to doing something different, because this is really not working for this new lifestyle that I'm going down. I'm loving playing basketball or playing soccer or playing volleyball. I'm really enjoying myself. I need to get myself up to a different physical level in order for me to compete competitively. But I feel good when I do this. I want to keep doing this. You want your brain to you want these signals to get sent to your brain consistently, and the more consistent you get these interrupting signals sent to your brain, eventually it's going to compel you to move in the direction that you want to go. And that's really what you want. But it doesn't have to be sports. It could be a hobby. It could be artistic. It could be building things. It could be there's so many things you can do for hobbies. It could be Lego building, it could be writing, it could be whatever. Just taking up something different that requires all your faculties about you, to be focused on one thing for a period of time. That is really helpful. Dancing could be one, learning a different language, going to school, just different types of activities that shake things up is enough to be able to give you a different perspective, or to force another idea into your mind that, hey, I, I just spat on the microphone. I can change myself. I can change my life, and I can do things differently. And there are different things that can make me happy, and that can be more fulfilling to me. And so the new paradigm shift, and so this is what your new paradigm shift should be: that there is more than one way to live. If you can believe that there is more than one way to live, your brain will start looking for other ways for you to live. But currently, in what might be blocking you, and it could be just a subconscious thing as well, is that you might believe that you don't know any other way to live. There is no other way for you to live. You're already so familiar with what you're doing that there's no point in changing. That is not true. That is not true. So if you were just to plug into your brain now and just say, hey, look, there is a different way for me to live. There is a different way for me to live. There is a different way for me to live. You might just start looking for different ways to live. You might just want to be curious enough to look to see what else is out there. And so it's all you need is a different perspective. If you can see that life can be different, if if you could have a bird's eye view on your life and just see how insignificant we are, like on this earth, and just where you are on the map, if you pull that back so that you have like a bird's eye view or even a satellite's point of view, you just see how vast the world is. And what that means is that, like, there's so much out there that we don't know, that we haven't explored yet. And if you just had another perspective, if you just went to another country and just traveled and just saw how other people live, could that change the way that you think about things? Yeah, and I'll tell you this right now, like, it will change the way that you that you believe things. It will change the way that you perceive the world. It was interesting, and I've lived a blessed life. I was born in Hawaii. I lived in Hawaii, I lived in New Zealand, and I lived in Tonga before I moved to the United States. And when I left Tonga and moved to the US, I would say, I'm Tongan. I'm never going to be American, even though I was American because I was born in Hawaii. But, like, to me, I wanted to be loyal to my Tongan culture and heritage. But after living in the US for a while, it was like, well, man, I'm American. And I've been able to live another life. I've had another perspective on how to live life. And then in 2002, when I moved to Australia, and I thought, I'm American through and through. I'm never going to be Australian. That's not who I am. And lo and behold, I've lived in Australia longer than I've lived in any other part of the world now. I've been here for 24 years now, and yeah, I could say that Australia is a part of who I am now, and my perspective has changed yet again, and I could understand things differently. I could understand the Australian culture, the way of life that they live here, in a very intimate and personal way, and that has blessed my life. And so I feel like I've been blessed multiple times over because I've changed different environments on multiple occasions, and was able to learn different countries, different cultures, different peoples, the way they live, and they've all culminated and have integrated into my being and who I am as a person today. And what that has taught me is that I can be more tolerant because I have met so many different walks of life, and I respect so many different walks of life, so many different religions, so many different races, so many different ethnicities. I have friends from all walks of life, and I've learned so much from them because of spending so much time with them, that I've become more tolerant and more kind and more accepting and more loving even of these of people and cultures and countries. And so having a new perspective on your life will change you as a person. It will broaden your horizons. It will enlighten your mind. You will become a much more tolerant and a kinder person. But more importantly, like, with regards to your those of you who are struggling out there to break your routines and your habits, you can do this by changing your perspective and changing your perspective on a regular basis. And you don't need to do a complete overhaul. You can do this as simple as going out and doing things that you're not used to doing on a day by day basis, that will be more helpful, progressive, wholesome, um, that will better you as a person, that will have a more positive impact on your life. If you can put together, string together a list of activities that you can do that will give you another perspective, that will also make you feel good about yourself, and that will give you positive vibes, that will be have a positive effect on you and the people around you, then there's no telling what you can do. And then if you get to that point where you can change your paradigm from one that says, this is my existence, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to be and live and die as. If you change it from that paradigm to there is there is more than one way to live, and implement that paradigm and keep that, say that to yourself over and over again, you can change your life. You can not only have a different perspective, but you can change your trajectory. You can change your life. You can become more. You can live your life to the fullest. You can be more than just an existence in this world. Far too many of us are existing, and not and fewer of us are living our lives. And I wish for everyone to be able to live their lives to the fullest. And I try to do that in the way that I live my life. And it's a very simple life, but I feel like I'm living on a day by day basis because of my purpose and the things that I do. And I want that for everybody, because I believe that if you do that, you're going to live with your life is going to be much more fulfilling. And I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you next time.